Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our big show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that release this week on Wednesday. But we show them here so you get a better idea of what they're all about, and you can head on over to infinityflux.net. Go ahead and order them. That way you don't miss out on them. You don't have to wait till Wednesday and be worried, are they still going to be in stock? You can go ahead and order them, and then they will be ready for you on Wednesday when they release. So it sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
That sounds like probably the best deal ever.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the best deal ever. We've got a big show for you today with some really awesome books. Quick reminder, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We are so close to 4K subscribers, and it would mean so much to us to hit that number. It means you are all comic fans. You are fans of a positive comic book talk, which is hard to find these days, but we are super jazzed about everything comics and want to, connect the right comic with the right person, because there's a comic out there for everybody, even you.
Yes, not you over there. Yeah,
there's with the bad taste in things.
Whoa.
Hey, that's
you got called out.
you know who you are.
Yeah.
But big show for you today. A lot of number ones and really interesting things. So let's get into it.
Yeah, we are going to start with Doctor Strange of Asgard, #1. This is written by Derek Landy, and the art is by Carlos Magno. And this one, after Blood Hunt, Doctor Strange is no longer the Sorcerer Supreme. That is now Doctor Doom. Doctor Strange needs a job, so he goes to Asgard to see if they have anything for a former Sorcerer Supreme. And he meets up with Thor, who is very agreeable. He's like, yeah, that sounds fine to me. I'm sure we could use a magic person. But Thor does tell him that he will have to convince Asgard's magical authority, the sorceress Hulda, before it can be official. So Strange, he's, trekking through Asgard trying to find where she is. And along his journey, he makes a couple of Asgardian friends. And then he finally does meet the sorceress herself. And the two of them have a very, very long conversation about whether he's up to the task of being Asgard's Sorcerer Supreme, because there's different kinds of magic, right? She says, well, yeah, you are great with magic on Earth, but are you, do you think you can handle Asgardian magic? I guess I equate it to sort of like, you're really good at speaking English, but now can you speak Chinese or something like that? Yeah. Like you've got to learn a whole different language, basically. And, he thinks that he's up to the task. I can't tell you anything more than that, though, because there is a pretty big surprise in here that kind of sets up what this whole series is going to be. Because admittedly, there is a lot of dialogue in this first issue, to the point where I was thinking, what is this going to be? What's the story going to be? Like, what are we doing here? But there is a shocking page turn that when you see it, you're like, oh, that's what this is going to be. And it's very interesting. It's very, very cool. And I definitely want to see where it goes. Like, after that, I was sold. I'm like, yeah, I want to read the next issue. I want it now. Like, I'm on board for this. So you got to get to that big reveal, and then things get really crazy from there. This does have the One World Under Doom banner across the top. It doesn't really inject anything into that main story. It's more of this is a story that takes place during and is a direct result of One World Under Doom.
Yeah, it's an outcome from what happened. Almost more of like the end of Blood Hunt than anything. Yeah.
But really cool. I mean, it's cool to see Doctor Strange in Asgard. It was cool, him and Thor hang out for a few pages, and then Doctor Strange goes off to do his thing, and I can't wait to see, after that, like I said, after that page turn, I can't wait to see where it goes.
Do we know how many issues this is yet?
No. I'm sure it's either 5 or 6. I'm not 100% sure, though.
Do we know how he gets that cool coat?
No, he just has it. He goes to Asgard without it, and then on his way to meet Hulda, he just has it.
Wow.
Because he finds a place where he can live, basically. Yeah. And, he goes there and gets settled in. He's like, well, it's time to go meet Hulda, and then puts the thing. I don't know where he gets it.
I feel like there's a story there.
There could be. I don't know. All right, but yeah, this is really cool. I was into this quite a bit. So we've got our A cover right here, and we have this really nice David Marquez variant. I don't want to say, but if you look on that cover, you might also see another character that's in this. But I don't want to say who.
The Rainbow Bridge.
That's right. We have this really nice Clayton Crane variant. Thor is in this, but they don't really team up to fight or anything like that cover looks like. We have our Marvel Rivals variant.
Another character I'm really
Yep.
bad with in the game.
I really like this one. This is the 1 in 10 Jeff Shaw design variant that we're selling for $5.99. Yeah.
Is it just like his cape can turn into a coat?
Well, no, he doesn't even go with his cloak.
Oh, yeah, because
Dr. Doom has
that,
it. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, he does have this in the book, but it just doesn't really explain where it comes from. And we have this 1 in 25. I'm not sure whose initials those are, but this is the 1 in 25 that we're selling for $15.99.
Very cool. So far I'm liking what the one world under Doom, the kind of world it's building around it. It's all very interesting, and people are kind of having to change roles to adapt to what he's doing.
Yeah, but even like in that Fantastic Four issue from I think last week, Sue Storm was like, "It's kind of weird how Doctor Doom's running the world, but yet I'm still sending my kids off to school, and things aren't really all that bad yet." But we saw in a couple other books that maybe they will get bad. So it's really interesting.
Well, next up, I have a new Star Wars book. This one is going to be an ongoing book. This is Star Wars Jedi Knights #1, and I really like this. This is by Mark Guggenheim, and the art is by Matibek Musabekov. And this is really cool because for so many years we had Star Wars and Darth Vader. Those were our two ongoing. But right now they're starting to mix it up a little bit with the Legacy of Vader book, which is mostly about Kylo Ren. But now they're jumping back to prequel era. This takes place before Phantom Menace. It doesn't. I'm sure you could figure out exactly when and how long before, but in this, like, Count Dooku is still a member of the Jedi Order, or at least he's in that position where he still hangs out there. He might not be a member anymore. You have Chancellor Valorum, who's the Chancellor before Palpatine took over. So this is within the probably 20 to 10 year span before Phantom Menace. And real quick, talk about the structure of this book, because I think this is a great idea for a Star Wars book. Mark Guggenheim described this as being pretty much each issue is going to be a standalone adventure, teaming up different Jedi from the time period going on. Adventures that are basically just for that one issue, but there is a through thread of a story.
Nice.
It's going to be running through it as well. But this does mean you're going to get kind of closure to your stories each issue, and some interesting team ups and characters you don't necessarily see a whole lot of together. But to kick it off, this has everybody in it. So the setup for this is there's a tension between two outer rim planets, and Chancellor Valorum sends the Jedi Council basically to go there, see what's going on, see if they can like de-escalate everything. And I don't want to say too much about that because it is all kind of handled in this one issue. So you get kind of a full story arc for that conflict in this one. But the Jedis that go out on this, you're gonna see Yoda, Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi. There is some new characters in this as well. There's one named Vecna Mooncrest, who is really cool. There is one new Jedi named like Barakana, something like that, and a Jedi Sierra Longa. So we do have some like first appearances of characters in this, which are really cool, and give you some characters that maybe you don't know the outcomes of. But you also still have Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn. You've got Adi Gallia, Sensei Tien, Shakti, Jarl Poof, Yaddle. Pretty much the entire Jedi Council is in this one issue, and they all at least have a line or two, which is really neat. But I won't talk too much about the story that's just for this issue, but there is the through line story. At one point in the story, Qui-Gon Jinn gets attacked by a very mysterious character, and they've already talked about this in the solicitation, and Mark Guggenheim's talked about it. And this character that attacks, he said, if the Jedi represent samurai, basically, then this character is a ninja.
Ooh.
And they're more like an assassin. And
that sounds
what
awesome.
kind of assassin could take on a Jedi? And that is kind of what's going to be our through line through all this is, who is this character? Why did they target Qui-Gon Jinn specifically? And does this have to do with his past? Anything like that? Plus, there's a really interesting bit where you see some kind of force visions of the future. It's a little bit Marvel timeless, where you get some scenes that they
Okay.
say could come to pass, maybe not, but some familiar faces, some not familiar faces, and some characters in ways you did not expect to see them all play out in a two-page splash that I love. I think Mark Guggenheim also said that one of Marvel's things they wanted with this book is each issue to have at least 3 splash pages.
Okay.
So the first one you get here is a big double page splash. At the end, you get a double page splash for all of those kind of force vision things. I can't remember what the other one is. I think you have a couple other like one page splash pages, but that means this is a book about action, all out Jedi. Very, very cool. And like I said, for the future issues, we're going to be focusing on 2 to 3 unique Jedi. And we know, I think Jango Fett's going to show up in this series. Some other non-Jedi characters as well will be appearing. So if you're a fan of like Clone Wars, this is almost like Clone Wars, but pre-Clone Wars, like the show where you're going to have different adventures each issue or episode. So very excited about the future of this book, and it's off to a great start. The other thing about this book, and I'll get to it when I get to one of the covers, but starting off, we have this is the Dan Jurgens variant. You can see that kind of ninja character there.
Or no, you can't because they're a ninja.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can't see
Maybe
them.
they're on all these
Yeah,
covers.
right.
We've got a Kamen variant. Just have a Kamen. I believe this is a connecting variant. Feels like they get Kamen to do all the connecting variants. I
Yeah.
think he's doing the Venom one, all of that. Um, this is one of the things I wanted to mention. So this is our action figure variant by John Tyler Christopher with Atha Prime or Atha Prime. We're not quite sure how to say it because this is the series we talked about it with one of the variants for the previous Star Wars series. That one of the goals of Mark Guggenheim for this series is to bring in some of the Kenner designs and characters that were never produced back when Kenner, before they stopped making Star Wars toys, were going to continue the line but make up their own stories and their own characters. This is the big villain that was going to be part of that. You can go online and see some of the original figures that were supposed to be coming out, all of that, and he's trying to work in pretty much all of those old designs for ships and characters into this series. So very cool in there. And you might have at one point got a figure that looked like this in a packaging like this. We also have this is our Turin Clark variant. I think we're going to be getting one of these with their lightsabers with all the Jedi Council each issue. We also have a Yasmin Putri variant with Ahsoka, who is not in this and probably is not alive at this point, or if she is, she's a baby. We have this Rosanus foil variant with our new Aether Prime character, who does not appear in this issue, but I'm sure that will be part of the issues to come. And lastly, we have this Greg Land 1 in 25 cover we're selling for $14.99, and you've got some of these two on the front, and then her right there. That's your 3 new Jedi for the series. A lot to say about this book.
Well, I've got a lot, or at least a normal amount to say about Ultimates number
You
10.
have a lot to say about Ultimates number 10, but can't say
But
it.
right, but can't say literally, right. So what I will say is that this is the first appearance of this universe's version of Namor. I will say it's not quite what you think though, and that's all I'm gonna say. It's not quite as straightforward as, hey, there's Namor and he's got wings on his feet and all that's like not quite that.
There's so many things I want to say because I've also read this book, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, it's tough. But this is also the first appearance of this universe's version of a couple of other well-known characters from the 616 universe. I'm not going to tell you who, because it's kind of spoilery.
It's kind of surprising too, as it kind of rolls out a couple of them.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, you don't see them both at once. Like there's one, and then there's another. Yeah, so lots of not well. Yeah, so first appearance of at least 3 616 characters in this issue. But the overall plot is that the Ultimates attempt to infiltrate a place called Castletown, which is the militarized civilian stronghold of a secessionist group called the Red Skulls. And they're trying to do this so that they can save Namor, who is being held captive there. And we got a brief glimpse of the Red Skulls in Ultimates #2 when Captain America was trying to like catch up on the history of the world, basically. And we got like a one panel of them. We didn't know who they were at the time, and now we get a lot more information about them. So they are a neo-Nazi movement inspired by the original Red Skull, Johann Schmidt, but they have also appropriated the tactics of the 1970s New York City police officer turned vigilante Frank Castle, hence Castletown.
Yeah.
And it's almost like its own little city with like a big wall around it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the whole gist of this is like the Ultimates are breaking in there to rescue Namor. We do get a little bit of a flashback about how Namor wound up as a captive in there in the first place. So don't worry about that. It all makes sense once you read it. There's a lot of action in this issue, and I can't tell you more than that because there are a couple of twists and turns in this that I definitely do not want to spoil for you. I will say that I think the Red Skulls, and that's plural because they're a whole group, right? The Red Skulls are wildly interesting. I think that there's a lot that they could do with them, especially with what gets revealed, which I'm not going to tell you. But it's really cool. Like I want a Ultimate Captain America book, which is focused on Captain America dealing with this Red Skulls group, because there's when you read this, there's some really interesting concepts. It's not just there's Namor. Like there's some other things too
Yeah.
that like surely to goodness they're going to have to address at some point.
Yeah.
Like they reveal a couple things. It's like, wait a minute, you can't just drop that on me and never tell me about it again. So that's got to come up again somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know where, I don't know when, because I feel like the slate's pretty full for the rest of the year. With we know Doom's going to get out of his dome. Doom's not Doom. Maker. I was going to say Doom's going to get out of his dome. Maker's going to get out of his dome near the end of the year. So I don't know where it's going to fit in, but there is some stuff in here that they are going to have to address at some point, and I hope they do because it's really, really cool. So yeah, a really good issue of Ultimates though.
Yeah, and I will say I really like it does also spend a good amount of time with Jim Hammond, the Human Torch, and here
he gets some good moments. Yeah,
he gets some really good moments where you get a little bit more of his backstory and kind of just his characterization in the Ultimate Universe. Where I feel like we haven't got a whole lot of moments with him.
Isn't him narrating the whole thing?
It's
the whole
him
story?
narrating this, but you also see like I mean, it's not a spoiler to say this is a book that has Captain America, Human Torch, and Namor. They do address like Invaders era of when they were a team back during World War II. So that's really cool as well. Just to get some like flashbacks to some of those scenes and everything. Which, once you see them together, you're like, oh man, I could use some classic Invaders stuff. It's just such a cool dynamic.
In the solicitations, again, not spoiling anything, but what we talked about, like on Comics from the Future, like this is Ultimate Universe Namor. To me, that's not the big thing in this.
No.
To me, there's bigger things in this. The things that I said like get revealed. I find that stuff is way more interesting. And again, I want that. They're going to have to address it. I can't wait till they do. I think that stuff is even bigger.
Yeah.
Because there's some big stuff in here.
Yeah, I mean, this does feel. The thing in the solicitation is, Namor, he's on a variant cover, but I would say there's at least 3 big things that happen in this that make this one of the probably most essential issues of the Ultimate so far.
Yeah.
Maybe not to like the stuff with the Maker and all that, but for the characters involved in the Ultimates.
And just expanding this story, this world. They're just adding more to it, and so I can't wait to see.
This Ultimate Captain America is just cool.
Yeah.
It just feels like a man at a time classic Captain America.
Yeah, but he just hasn't really had much of a chance to shine yet.
No.
I don't think because it's full of other characters too. You've got the thing with Tony Stark. Is he going to live or die? There's the Human Torch, and now we've got a new Hawkeye and a new She-Hulk and all that stuff. I feel like Captain America hasn't had a good chance
Other
to
than
really
issue 2.
Or the one where he went to go recruit Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And the whole issue was him and Hawkeye fight. Like that was cool too.
He's got a funny line in this about let's go into this town that I really liked. It felt very classic Captain America. But it continues to be. I mean, I thought going into the Ultimate Universe, Ultimate Spider-Man would be number 1, and I wasn't so sure about the Ultimates because the previous Ultimates was a very mixed bag.
Yeah.
But I think this is right up there with Ultimate Spider-Man
For sure.
as just quality
Thi-
and most excitement.
Yeah, this is my second favorite Marvel book behind Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this issue in particular is just as good. So we have our A cover right here. We have this really nice In-Hyuk Lee variant with your Namor on the cover there.
Very classic Namor.
Yep. And there is a 1 in 25 Greg Land variant with Jim Hammond and Captain America.
He makes Jim Hammond look a little bit more robotic.
Yeah, Jim Hammond doesn't really look that robotic. He looks more human. Yeah,
he just kind of looks like a guy.
Yeah, yeah. This is the 1 in 25 we're selling for $19.99. Great issue of Ultimates though.
But I do feel like every issue of Ultimates adds something.
Yes.
There's no wasted issues.
Right. And this definitely does. Oh my gosh.
Well, next up, I have a new Spider-Verse book. And this one is interesting because originally, I was like, oh, we're getting another Spider-Verse. You know, we're two Spider-Verses since the end of the Spider-Verse. But this is actually a one-shot. So this is Web of Spider-Verse New Blood #1. And we know this is one of the two one-shots that are leading to the big Spider-Verse versus Venomverse versus book. Which
I think that'll be the miniseries, right? Spider-Verse versus Venomverse. Yeah. We're not there yet though.
No, I'm not even sure when that comes out.
I don't think the Venom one has been solicited yet.
No, so we're still a good distance away from all of this big stuff.
Well, what I meant was there's a Venom version of this too.
There's one called Web of Venom vs. Fresh Brains.
Well, I saw that in there, but then it also says at the end, it says, something about don't miss Venom vs. New Blood also. So it feels like there's a little bit of a disconnect at Marvel.
They might have changed the name or something like that. But essentially both sides are getting a one-shot leading up to this event. This is an anthology style, but it does have a through line, which I thought was actually pretty cool. So the through line part is written by Matt Groom and the art's by Luciano Vecchio, which I think Matt Groom is one of the ones writing the big event.
Okay.
But it's a really cool. So there's a thing called the Web Heart, and I'm not sure if we've seen it in anything else.
I don't remember. I mean, obviously we know the Web of Life and Destiny, but the Web Heart, like I'm sure you're gonna say, like is the heart of that, and I don't remember seeing that before.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a spider on the web.
Yeah, it's not a character or anything like that.
No, it's sentient and it kind of narrates this. But essentially, it knows that this fight is coming between the Spider-Verse and the Venomverse. And it does already have its heroes picked out for the Spider-Verse side. You do see who they are. There's, they're pretty much all recognizable if you've been reading any of the Spider-Verse stories.
Yeah, they've all been in a Spider-Verse story at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
But the Web Heart wants one more champion, and that's what this book is about, is the Web Heart kind of searching through the web of life and destiny to find who that final piece of their champions is going to be. So that's where we get 3 different stories. The first story is by Greg Pak and Alan Robinson featuring Spider-Hulk, which is not a first appearance. Spider-Hulk has been around. Yeah. Even in the pages, is it Amazing Spider-Man?
It was Web of Spider-Man number 70 back in the 90s. Yeah. That's where we first saw it, and it actually references that. So this is that Hulk, but like in a different.
If it took a little turn, which is a really interesting story where basically Peter Parker as Spider-Man and Spider-Hulk just goes through the window of Mary Jane's apartment, and she's like, "Are you not worried? You just came through the apartment." He's like, "No need to worry anymore.
Yeah.
I'm really strong now." And you just see him lay waste to Green Goblin, Rhino.
Yeah, Doc Ock.
You just see like, oh, he's not afraid of anyone anymore. So you'll have to. I'm not going to tell you who the web ends up picking, but that is our first story. The second 2 stories are first appearances of new Spider characters. So we also have one by Jordan Morris and Sumit Kumar, telling the story of Count Parker, who is a vampire version of Peter Parker. And in this, Mary Jane is a vampire hunter.
Which is really cool. I was into
Elsa Bloodstone-ish or whatever.
Yeah, I was into it.
But there is a lot of twists and turns in that one as well. That I thought was really cool. Plus, his design is really cool. I like that. And lastly, we have a story by Matt Groom and Federico Vincentini starring Spider Prowler, which is a version of Miles Morales who takes up the title of Prowler along with his Spider-Man persona to honor his uncle Aaron, who was the Prowler. Very a la Peter and Uncle Ben. Um, and he kind of fights honoring his uncle and that in a kind of pseudo post-apocalyptic New
Well, it
York.
said it was set in the year like 2501 or something like that.
Okay.
So it was like way in the future.
But that one was also interesting. The art in all of these is really good, and I do like this as just a one shot. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're gonna get 10 more spider people.
Yeah.
We get a couple more in here, but this is kind of wrapping up, setting the stage for the Spider Verse side of the story. And like you said, the Venom one hasn't been solicited yet, so it's at least a month or so out. And then I guess the big event will be sometime after that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, when this was announced, I admittedly I kind of rolled my eyes thinking I'm over all the Spider-Verse stuff. I did enjoy this one though, and like you said, it helps that it's just a one shot.
Yeah.
You get these three spider characters. That's it. There's nothing else. And the spider characters we get in here are neat. I really liked all three stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really fun one, especially if you are collecting all Spider-Verse things. You're going to be reading the big event coming up, all of that. Don't miss out on this one. So we've got our A cover right there. We also have a Anandito variant with all three of them.
I think the Count Parker, the vampire one, I think that was my favorite story of the three. I just thought that was cool.
Yeah, and then we have this one featuring him, the Lucas Wernick variant, where he looks like he's on a Mario tube. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, and I also have a this is a 1 in 10.
Yeah, I like this one.
It's a 1 in 10 design variant by Vecchio that we're selling for $5.99, so just basically the same price as the book.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's really cool. All right, so next up, I've got Secret Six #1. This is written by Nicole Maines, and the art is by Steven Segovia. Great creative team there, and
Yeah.
Nicole Maines has proven that she's a very, very good writer, and Steven Segovia's artwork is fantastic. So we know that after the events of Absolute Power, Amanda Waller was locked up in Belle Reve prison. However, Dreamer has a dream where she learns that, and I still don't quite know how. We talked about this when we read it a couple months ago. Don't quite understand that part, but Dreamer does have a dream where she realizes that Amanda Waller has disappeared from her cell, and so she goes to John Kent and Jay Nakamura for help. And Jay is very distrustful of Dreamer, though, because he feels that she's responsible for the death of his mother, which happened back in the Suicide Squad Dream Team miniseries. And this book does heavily reference that miniseries, but it also does a pretty good job of filling in the blanks if you haven't read it. It did make me. I didn't read it either. You read it.
Yeah.
I didn't read it, but this did make me want to go back and read that.
It was a fun book too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So John and Jay and Dreamer go to Belle Reve prison to investigate Amanda Waller's disappearance, but they're met with some unfriendly, unhelpful guards, and they have to make a quick escape out of there. And not really going to tell you where they go, but that does kind of help set up the rest of this series. This is going to be your 6 characters that kind of form this. I don't know if they're going to be like an official team, but the series is going to center around these 6 characters right here. We've got Deadshot and Catman, and is it Black Alice?
Black Alice, yeah.
So this issue mostly focuses on John, Jay, and Dreamer, but the other ones are going to be in the next issue.
And a lot of the book is less about the bigger story and more about like their current, like, I don't know, I don't want to say relationships, but there's some tension between them and them having to work together for this.
Yeah, well, I have a note about that too, saying that I am interested in the mystery of what the heck happened to Amanda Waller, because she's just gone. Nobody knows what happened to her.
With a head full of secrets.
Yeah, right. She's got, that's the thing too, is like she's got all this knowledge in her head. It's like, that's pretty dangerous.
Which is the thing Dreamer did to her at the end of that, was basically block off all the, she even had a moment where Amanda Waller's like, I'm still dangerous, and Dreamer was like, okay, think of any of the secrets,
Yeah.
And she couldn't bring it up because Dreamer blocked off that side of her
But
memory.
I still don't think that block is a guarantee, because the information's still in there.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
all has to happen is somebody, Brainiac or somebody, has to get to her and be able to unlock that stuff. So it's still not safe. But I mean, I'm equally interested in the rift. There is a rift forming between John and Jay. You know, John is trying to tell Jay, listen, Dreamer had nothing to do with your mother's death. Jay is having none of it. Like,
Yeah.
Jay is not like, well, maybe you're right. It's not, no. Jay's like, I can't believe you're defending her. She's directly
To her
responsible.
face.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jay's not shy about his disdain for her at all. And I'm interested in that part. Like, to the point, I don't know that John and Jay's relationship can
Yeah.
survive this. I'm not sure what's going to happen. But yeah, so a really good book, really good artwork. I liked it a lot too. So I don't know how many issues this is going to be either. I'm assuming 6. I mean, yeah,
That would be on point if it
yeah,
was.
that would be awful if it's like 4 issues for Secret Six. But really cool. I really like this mystery that has been set up here.
And it's another one of those books that when you get to the end, you're like, I really want to read the next one.
Right.
That leaves you in a very like interesting spot.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we have our A cover right here, and we have some nice variants. This is the Brad Walker and Trish Mulvihill variant with your current lineup. I really like this one. This is the Larix variant. This is really nice. This foil.
Yeah, I got this one too.
Deadshot and Catman variant. This is by Ariel Olivetti. Yeah, that's really cool. We have another foil variant from Fico Ocio with Deadshot and John Kent. And we have this 1 in 25 Sweeney Boo variant that we're selling for $19.99.
Catman is one of my favorite DC characters. All my favorite DC characters are definitely not the most loved characters, but I love Catman, and I cannot wait to see more of him.
Yeah,
if you've
he
read
hasn't been around in a while.
No, the Gail Simone Secret Six run is one of my favorite comic series.
Yeah,
he has such a great story arc in that it made me love that character. So more of him is going to be great. John Kent has a new costume in this one.
Yeah,
which is really cool, and we might be seeing maybe him become a more distinct character rather than just another Superboy or Superman, which I think is really interesting. So yeah, there's a lot going on in that book that I think people will really like.
Yeah.
Next up, I've got a super fun book. This is Teen Titans Go #1. This is by Sholey Fish, and the art is by Dario Brizuela. Which of course it looks just like the show, but I love this one because it's very kind of meta about the story. So in this, DC, the company, calls the Titans to their headquarters. In this, the DC is like, it looks like a traditional castle, but with a big DC logo on the front of it.
Which logo?
I think it's the new
one.
one.
The bullet logo?
The bullet logo.
You mean the old one?
No, the new
the new old one, yeah.
But what's really funny is as they're going there, I think it's like Starfire. Somebody's like, maybe they're gonna talk to us about our comic, and Beast Boy's like, we have a comic about us, and they're like, yeah, it's been running for years. He's like, oh, that's great. And so they're like, they're probably going to congratulate us. I think they say we're going to win an Eisner or a Ringo or something else.
Nice.
And he's like, you're just making up names now, which is great because there's a lot of like specifically comic references in this one, which I love. But on getting in there, they learn, nope, they're not getting congratulated. Their book's getting canceled. Much to Beast Boy's he's very upset about it, even though he just learned that they had a comic. He's now super depressed that it got canceled. But all the Titans, they're stubborn about it, whatever. But eventually, they go back to their headquarters and think, how do we make sure our book doesn't get canceled? And they decide, well, what if we, try and play towards DC and make ourselves something more relevant or something unique or whatever. And so that's when the art style changes for multiple pages as they try out different style comics. The first one is amazing because it looks like a little bit of like the Perez New Teen Titans era. It's a little bit more cartoony than that, but it's, feels very like 60s, 70s DC. They also try a black and white horror book like Walking Dead. They try a super indie black and white like slice of life book like Strangers in Paradise, where very normal characters just like pontificate for
Yeah.
a long time as Beast Boy talks about what happens to your nail clippings and the perfect what's the perfect kind of nail clipping. And they go through some rapid fire ones like Archie, where they do mention drinking out of the same soda thing is not very sanitary. Pokemon, Watchmen, even All Yeah Comics gets a nod in there, which I
Nice.
love all of those. But even that doesn't really seem to work. So what is their next option? How about making sure no other DC book comes out, so they have to publish theirs? And they're doing that by going to the different big superheroes and distracting them from doing heroics. This is such a fun book. It's yeah, it's for all ages, but if you're a longtime DC reader or comics reader, you'll get a ton of the
Is
references.
it a one shot or a
I
mini
believe
series?
it's a mini series. It's because it's got like
Let's go see if it's
next time on
Oh, okay, yeah.
Teen Titans Go or whatever,
It was only $2.99.
and it's only two ninety
Yeah,
nine,
nice.
which is amazing. Probably one of the last books on the shelf other than Spawn.
Spawn
I
and
think.
Saga, right?
I think
Oh, did Saga?
Saga might have gone up
Oh,
to
okay. I
three
don't.
ninety nine,
Yeah.
but yeah, this is just a home run. If you want a palate cleanser from all the other craziness, you just want a lot of quick, fun jokes, all of that. Look no further than Teen Titans Go, #1. So we've got our A cover here, and we also have a blank sketch cover.
All right. Well, I've got Mothra, Queen of the Monsters, #1. This is written by Sophie Campbell, who is going to be your writer and artist on the upcoming Supergirl comic, which is
Yeah,
going to be really
and
cool.
previous writer on
Ninja
Ninja
Turtles. Yeah.
Turtles, which was great.
The art is by Matt Frank, and also Sophie Campbell does a couple of pages in here too. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, if that's what Supergirl looks like, that's going to be really neat, like
Yeah.
a pretty distinct book. But this book is about two different, not two sisters named Emmy and Mira. Their parents were killed when they were young during a battle between Mothra and a big ant monster called Antra. And during that battle, Mothra was also killed. And I just want to say that's not a spoiler. The whole series is about the fact that Mothra is dead. That's the plot. Um, and because Mothra was the protector of Earth who died, the world is not such a great place anymore. It's kind of I don't know if it's set in the future, but it's very dystopian looking. All the buildings are crumbling and everything like that. And there's monsters kind of roaming the planet that they have to sort of duck out of and hide from, things like that. But not all hope is lost because Emmy and Mira have these two small fairy-like creatures with them who I didn't know until I did a little research that that's part of Mothra's
Yeah.
lore is these two little fairy creatures that kind of
sing.
right.
Yeah.
It's based around song, and these fairies tell Emmy and Mira that I can't remember, like, you have the gift of song or something like that, and between that and sort of the magic that we can do, we can help. And so yeah, so this kind of dives into some actual pre-existing Mothra lore, which I didn't know before I read this. But those fairies do have a plan for how to revive Mothra and save the world. And we don't really get to that part until kind of the end. Like, this is kind of setting up the introducing us to the characters, setting up the world, that kind of thing. But I thought this was pretty cool because there's not all that many Mothra stories that don't also have Godzilla. And like I said, it does delve into some pre-existing Mothra lore. It's got some good artwork, but from both artists. Yeah, so just a Mothra. There's no Godzilla, no nothing like that. It's just a Mothra book.
Mothra can stand alone.
Yeah, absolutely. She's like the #2 monster, right? Yeah. So it'll be cool to see how that, and there's a little something at the end that makes me think, oh, this their plan to save the world isn't so cut and dry. They're gonna run into some obstacles at some point. So yeah, a cool Mothra book if you're collecting all the different monster books from IDW, and this is our only cover.
Yeah, and I think IDW just pinned a big deal with like Godzilla and all that they're going to be doing a lot of big Godzilla related books
Nice,
coming
yeah.
up. So that'll be really cool. Well, next up, I have Hyde Street issue #4. This is very exciting. This is a issue I've been looking forward to. It doesn't say. I thought it would say on the cover like the creature's name or whatever. But this brings back the character we saw just briefly in the previous issue, this very monstrous Frankenstein-like character, and here we get his origin. So, this follows Oscar Oddman. He is a struggling actor in 1949. His agent doesn't really like him and doesn't really believe in him. He basically only gets acting jobs because of his size. He's like 6'4", something like that. So he always like plays big monster characters and everything. But he's classically trained. He really wants speaking parts, and he receives the script for Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein's Brother, which is really fun because there is tons of references to real Universal Monster books or movies in here because I guess Image is working with Universal Monsters
Oh,
on their
right,
other ones.
right,
So you
yeah.
get the actual posters
Oh,
for
that's
these
cool. Yeah.
for all this. But they all kind of know that this movie is already gonna be a flop. Like it's a spin-off of a spin-off. The budget is not great, all of that. But he doesn't really have any other options. He asks, can I play the Phantom of the Opera? Can I play all these other characters that do emote a little bit, but they're like, no, Lon Chaney Jr.'s got that job. Boris Karloff's got that job. Basically, this is your only one. And he's like, I don't even have any speaking lines. I just grunt and
Yeah.
stuff. Um, so he's really depressed about this. But while he's in the makeup chair, the director comes to him and is basically like, "Oh, I was at that one like stage play you did," and he's like, "That theater was basically empty." He's like, "I know, I was in the back." He's like, "I can tell you can really emote with your eyes and stuff." He's like, "You're gonna do great." So he gets kind of a boost of confidence from this, but quickly learns that the production is hit with multiple problems, and the studio's not really liking his portrayal of this character, and they do kind of say, "Well, your eyes aren't really believable as this character." So
Hmm.
that's a big theme in this. But one day there is a big accident behind the set that may have been Oscar's fault. And what do you know? The next thing he knows, he wakes up on Hyde
Oh.
Street, where I don't want to get into too much detail, but we do see a return of the scorekeeper, and learn that Oscar as this character is maybe not that bad of a guy.
We got a little bit of a hint of that in the previous issue.
Yeah, that he may be like, if you see his score, you see that he has collected no
Yeah,
souls
on
on
purpose. Yeah.
purpose. What I did think is really neat about this is you see Hyde Street in the 40s, which is very different than Hyde Street
Oh,
now.
okay.
It does mention it was kind of a wilder time with more dangerous people, and you see the score for that time, which is pretty much all new names.
Okay.
So if you wanted a hint to maybe some more residents of Hyde Street, it does mention that by now a lot of them have collected their amount of souls and have left. But there's some pretty interesting ones there, and especially the ones that have the highest scores.
Okay.
So that's really
Well, I'd
cool.
like to see a World War II era Hyde Street. Can you imagine, like, get some Nazis in there or
Yeah.
something like that? That'd be
Uh, but very cool. I don't want to say anything more about it, but we are now introduced to another character that's, Mr. X-Ray is a little bit like might be the protagonist. He's got maybe a good side to him, even though
yeah.
if it's kind of hidden way down. This is another character that if there's going to be a rebellion on Hyde Street, it might be these two now. So very great issue. The art is phenomenal. There's a scene where they're putting his makeup on, and it's just kind of static panels over and over, but as more makeup gets added
Yeah.
on to him, that's just beautiful. Cannot recommend this highly enough. Hyde Street #4 is a fantastic issue, especially if you're a fan of like Universal Monsters and all that. This makes tons of references to classic names in the industry at that time. So I love that. We've got our A cover here, and we have a Schneesberg. Whoops. That's what these creepy characters will do to me. Uh, which you do see an appearance by Pranky in this as well, setting up the next issue that I think is going to be very good. And that is it.
Well, I've got Uncanny X-Men number 11, and this is part one of the X-Manhunt crossover. It's going to be seven, it's going to weave through seven different X titles and then wrap up with the X-Manhunt Omega issue.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it a while back. So really, it's going to be 8 parts in total, and this is the first part here. And in this one, Charles Xavier, we know that he is being held in Grey Malkin prison. We saw a little bit of that in the Raid on Grey Malkin storyline where he could have broken out then, but he said, no, I need to stay in here and atone and all that stuff. Well, in this, he receives a telepathic distress call from somebody, but I don't want to tell you who. but it's important enough that it makes him want to break out. And there's also something wrong with Xavier, and I also don't want to tell you what that is. I don't think we knew it before this issue, but it is causing his telepathic powers to not work quite correctly. So he's a little bit on the fritz, right? It is explained in this. And so Ellis, Commander or Professor Dr. Ellis, I think, who's running the prison, puts a call out to Rogue and says, "Hey, you need to get down here." And so the X-Men, Rogue's team of X-Men show up because Xavier's breaking out, and they've got to try to stop him. But that's going to prove much easier said than done. Even though he's just one and they are many, he's still pretty powerful, and yeah, he wants out of that prison for reasons that I'm not going to tell you about. But yeah, so if you've been looking forward to this storyline, this is the first part right here, and this is our A cover right here. We have this Peach Momoko variant, and we have this 1 in 50 Luciano variant that we're selling for $49.99.
Next up, I've got a very bizarre book. This is Monkey Meat, the Summer Batch #1. So there was a previous Monkey Meat miniseries by Junie Ba, that was a couple of years ago. I kind of remember it. I didn't read the whole thing or anything. But then Junie Ba went on to do The Boy Wonder at DC,
Yeah.
which I really enjoyed. And so when this came back, I was like, oh, now I need to really check this out, knowing Junie Ba's work. This is, even though it's kind of a volume 2 or whatever, you can still jump onto it because it's kind of more of an anthology style book, about a mysterious tropical island, where there's a corporation where apes are both workers and the product, thus monkey meat. So already this is a pretty zany, weird world. This is really nice. The pages are very almost like newsprint pages. There's very limited color, very kind of dull color in some of it, but we get multiple stories in this. The first one is a mostly silent issue, silent adventure, where it seems like someone on the island summons this big kind of lanky demon thing, that also might be an ape, but it is kind of rampaging around until it gets confronted by a kind of superhero looking ape or kind of a big bouncer type ape. It's hard to tell because there's also no dialogue, so it's more about the aesthetic of the entire thing. And they kind of have a big fight and everything. In between the stories, we have some ads for monkey meat and some fake ads for stuff, plus like a connect the dots that is kind of twisted and everything that's really fun. But then we get our second story, and this is a story featuring Monk Eagle, which is kind of a mix of a monkey and an eagle, and Monkey Girl, who are kind of a Batman and Robin. Fictional heroes made up by the corporation to sell merch and movies. They said they've made like billions of dollars off these characters. But until one day, some fans showed up to the island and did some kind of magic ritual and basically made these two characters real. It's funny when they did that, every media that they were in, they disappeared from. So all the comics are just have blank covers, and the movies, you can't see the characters in them and stuff. It's like removed them from all of those. But instead of it being a big battle or whatever, it comes down to a lot of legal action of, well, does the corporation own these characters anymore now that they're real people? There's courtroom scenes and all of that, and this very zany book that's full of monkeys and magic and action and just weird stuff, but all in a very cool art style by Junie Ba. And I think if you like kind of absurdist, surrealist stories, you will definitely like. And if you just like indie kind of formats of books, this has that as well. So there is your A cover, and that is the only cover I have right now.
All right, so I've got NYX #9, which is part 2 of the X-Men Hunt crossover. And in this one, Charles Xavier, he's out of Gray Malkin prison at this point. He arrives in New York City to get help from some of the NYX kids with stealing the last seed of Krakoa. And he needs their help because it's contained in the treehouse that was formerly the X-Men's base in New York, but that is now under control of Doctor Doom. There's a lot of Doctor Doom references in this one, to the point where I had to check if there's a banner on top, because they do reference quite a bit.
They couldn't double banner.
Yeah, well, actually, it's more than a reference. I mean, there's a bitty. and it's not like you have to read One World Under Doom for this, but this is very much takes place during One World Under Doom. Um, so he needs their help to go get this last seed of Krakoa. But not every member of NYX is thrilled that he is there, and some of them refuse to help him flat out. But a couple of them do. And I'll just say they run into some complications obtaining this seed, and Xavier may have other goals that he hasn't told the NYX kids about. So
Xavier keeping secrets from people?
right?
What's going on?
Yeah, I know.
He's never done that
It's
before.
a first for him. I know. But yeah, so the second part of the second part of the X-Men Hunt story also comes out this week as well. So don't miss that if you're wanting to get all of them. So this is our A cover right here, and we have this Peach Momoko cover. And we have this Phil Noto. These are the connecting covers. And then we have this 1 in 25 Fan Yang variant that we're selling for $39.99. Very nice, Laura Kinney.
Next up, just real quick, want to mention that What If Mickey and Friends Became the Avengers #1 comes out. Not a whole lot to say about this because it is a lot like the What If Donald became Wolverine, What If Donald became Thor, What If what was the other one? Mickey and Friends Became the Fantastic Four. Very much like that. This is by Steve Bailing and Luca Barbary, with art by Alessandro Pastorovicchio, which I believe is the same creative team on all of these. We've got in the far off realm of Duck Guard instead of Asgard, you've got Scrooge Odin and Gladstone Loki and Donald Duck Thor, causing mischief, all of that. And Loki looks out onto Earth, where we get scenes of each of the Avengers in this, kind of doing a little couple page story, little, it's like a cake is getting stolen from a birthday party, and Hulk Goofy has to stop himself. Just pretty fun stuff. And then Daisy, Lady Sif, shows up and basically helps them assemble the Avengers. So it's very straightforward. It's still fun. It's still cute. Very much like all the other ones. But if you've been getting all those, you'll definitely want to get this one with What If Mickey and Friends Became the Avengers.
Any variants on that one?
Nope.
No. Interesting. All right. Well, I've also got Storm #6, which is part 3 of the X-Men Hunt crossover. So this is going to be an 8-part thing, and one weekend, and we're already 3 parts. We're already 3 parts in. I actually kind of like that release schedule. You know, that you don't have to wait too long, right? So this is part 3. And in this one, Charles Xavier travels to Atlanta, where Storm's sanctuary is, to get her help. He says that he wants to raise the dead one final time, because she even mentions, hey, Krakoa's gone. There's no more resurrection. He's like, I want to raise the dead one more time, which really confuses me because it seems like he's got 3 different things that he's trying to accomplish. Like in part 1, he gets that distress call, which to me I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense why he wants to break out. But then in the second part in NYX, he's like, no, I want to go steal the seed of Krakoa, and we also see that he wants to do something else as well. And in this, it's like, oh, I want to raise the dead again. I'm like, what? You're all over the place here. So I'm not quite sure how this is all going to go, how this is all going to come together. But they do. So she agrees, and they have a really nice conversation. Storm says, "Listen, I'm an Avenger, and you are a wanted criminal. I cannot be doing this," but she agrees to help him anyway. And they travel to San Francisco. I don't really know why they travel to San Francisco, but they do. And before they can really do anything, though, the X-Men show up. And I'm talking about Jed McKay's X-Men, Cyclops and Juggernaut, Magic, and those guys. They show up to take Xavier back to Grey Malkin prison. And then the rest of the issue is those X-Men fighting Storm and Maggot and Professor X. So
I do like Maggot.
Yeah, and he's pretty cool in this. So I hope you're sitting down for this revelation, but mutants fight, like X-Men fight X-Men in this, which has never happened in the pages of Marvel Comics before. I have a note that it says, I'm actually pretty tired of the X-Men fighting each other. However, I do have to admit that the fight was pretty epic, especially Storm and Cyclops going up against each other.
Is she still possessed in
Yeah,
this one?
Storm is like a god level, like cosmic level being right now too. So they don't really have much hope. But as sick as I am of the X-Men fighting themselves, I'd rather see them fight like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. This was a pretty cool fight, and Luciano Vecchio does the artwork, and it's gorgeous. So it's a really good looking book. Um, and the ending of this is really interesting. There's like a little. It's like just when you think like this thing happens, oh, there's a little something at the end. This was my favorite of the 3 parts so far. I really like this one a lot. I need to go. I need to catch up on Storm because this has been a
I've read
really
the
cool
last like
series.
2 issues in one
Yeah,
book.
yeah, they're really good. Yeah. So, yeah. Part 3 of X-Men Hunt. I know we have at least 1 or 2 more coming next week. I don't remember which ones those are, but yeah, part 3 in Storm number 6 right here. So that's our A cover right here, and we have this Peach Momoko variant.
Next up, I've got a new indie book from Mad Cave. This one is by Anaki Miranda and Roy Miranda. This is Blade Forger #1, and this is a dense book in world building and everything. But I was looking forward to reading it because this is the same team that did We Live for Aftershock. That was a kind of a breakout hit book that was really really good. The art in this is also done by Anaki Miranda. But in this, sit down because this is a lore dump. There's a new energy source called Corum, which has it's used for everything and has led to a bloody war. But after years of death and destruction, the lords of the land agreed to put a stop to the fight and come up with the Blade Forger Treaty, where quorum exploitation and the distribution and everything will be done through one central government led by a neutral emperor. Now, the emperor will be a blade forger, a mystical swordsman who would earn their title of emperor in a tournament every 5 years. Blade forgers would come together from every corner of the empire and compete. Uh, and in this, we follow Owada, who is a young blade forger who's kind of a warrior of the people. He's got every town he stops in, people know his name and everything. Uh, but the competition will stop at nothing from not even letting him get to the tournament. Now, here's an interesting thing. Um, when I was first reading this, I was like, this book is moving very fast. Like, you think, oh, he's going to be on his way to this tournament and everything. He's there in just like 3 pages.
Oh wow!
Even though I said, there's people trying to stop him, that all happens within the first like couple of pages. And I don't want to exactly say why, but there is a reason why it does move so fast. But there's a lot of questions to this, like the pacing of the story, um, the world that he inhabits. Uh, from everything I've said, you'd think, oh, it's like a kind of a fantasy world or whatever. Yeah. Almost not really, because he flies like a plane, and there's gas stations that just look like a gas station in the middle of the country somewhere. People wear normal clothes and everything, but there is a tournament where they fight with swords and all of that, which is it's a very weird juxtaposition of like modern world and then these really fantasy looking elements on top of it. But there's even Awada has even like a war cry that he has that people kind of chant along with him, but it doesn't make sense. But everything is kind of revealed by the end of it, and the end of it, I was like, oh, that's a really interesting idea that I don't know if I've ever seen kind of an issue 1 tackle that I didn't know I was going into it with this kind of twist. So if you're looking for a kind of a world building, new interesting book that has a little bit more to offer than just the standard, I think this is a very interesting one for that. So that is our A cover, which is also a fold out cover.
Oh, okay.
And I do want to mention, just like when they did We Live, there's an original soundtrack for this that has a code you can scan and listen to songs along with the parts that it goes
Oh, that's
with.
neat.
So yeah, very cool there. That's the A cover, and then we also have a Kale New variant. Oh, and I just noticed I put things in the wrong order.
Yeah, I was gonna say you missed a few.
Yeah, the Disney cover for that other one I did. We've got a Chrissy Zulo cover for that one.
Well, that sounds like Owada lore to go through in the Blade Forger book.
You heard nothing after I said that, and
I
you're
was
just like
I was like,
holding on
how
to
am I
that.
gonna spin this? All right, so I've got Justice League: The Atom Project #3, And I don't have too many notes on this. This is right smack dab in the middle of the story. But the time has come for Captain Adam to get his doctor friend that he met up with last issue to zap away all of his powers that he has absorbed, which may end up killing him in the process. And he's fine with that because he says these powers are too dangerous for anybody else to get. If you can zap them out of me, that's fine. But if I die during it, that's fine too, as long as these powers are gone. And we actually do get a flashback, which I thought was interesting, back to when Captain Adam first absorbed all these powers that he currently possesses, which kind of helped bring home issue number one. Because I remember when we read issue number one, we were like, wait a minute, does he have a bunch of different powers? Does he have like super speed and he's like phasing through walls? And
Yeah.
we see what happens. Like we see the first time he gets all those and the circumstances by which that happens. Um, Ray Palmer and Ryan Choi still having a tough time, regulating all these powers, which doesn't quite line up with Justice League because it seemed like they had a really good handle on it. They're like, "Here, Atom Smasher, touch this thing. Okay, now you're good."
Yeah.
So that's a little bit disjointed, I think, but still a really cool issue. So we have our A cover right here, and we have this Dave Wilkins variant. I like that one a lot.
Mhm.
And we have this Kevin Wada variant.
Well, I've got one last book. This is Spider-Gwen number 11. And I wanted to check this one out because this is the first part of this kind of Spider-Gwen goes to space, gets his new space costume, all of that. I want to see what it's all about. It seemed really interesting. I really like the Mark Brooks design for the suit, all of that. Um, so this is really interesting. King Loki shows up. Like, they're almost like the version from the Loki TV show. There's
Yeah.
different versions. This is King Loki, promising Gwen that she can fix the death of her boyfriend from the previous run, Black Tarantula. But uh, to save him, she also has to save the entire universe. Which for Spider Gwen sounds like that feels like why?
Yeah.
Like what's that have to do with her? My notes just say, can King Loki truly be trusted? And why did he need Gwen to do this? That is all explained by the end of this, which I didn't. It could have been in the previous story arc or whatever, but I didn't remember it. But it's a pretty shocking final page when you realize why all these pieces are here on the table. Her new suit's really cool. It is very like just a classic space suit. She fights some aliens, all of that. But if you're looking for a very interesting place to jump into Spider-Gwen, this is definitely it. There's our A cover by Mark Brooks. We also have this Cliff Chiang variant, which is really nice. We have a Todd Knock Icons variant. And lastly, we have the 1 in 10 Spider-Gwen design variant by Mark Brooks. This is the we're selling for $5.99, but you get a good look at her suit there. It's very almost like Mega Man, like with the bigger arms and the round helmet.
Well, I want to do just a bit of a lightning round because I have 3 other books that I did read and I did enjoy, but they're kind of in the middle. They're stories, so don't have a whole lot to say or that I can say about them without spoiling everything. But we do have Batgirl number 5, where Batgirl goes on a mission to rescue Lady Shiva from the Unburied, and it's just as good as all the other ones. Great artwork, great action. So Batgirl number 5 is out this week. We've also got Moon Knight: Fist of Khonshu number 6. Just continues to be a phenomenal run of Moon Knight. Like I feel like this is probably the most slept on book that Marvel has. Like everybody should be reading and checking this out. And then we have Wolverine number 7, and Wolverine goes up against the character that we saw at the end of last issue that I won't spoil for you. And things are not looking good for your pal Wolverine here. So Wolverine number 7 is out this week as well. Just wanted to show you those other ones in case you've been looking for them.
Yep. Well, like we said, it was a big week for books. Not as big as some of the previous weeks, but there are some very good ones this week, like the Star Wars Jedi Knights. Don't miss out on Ultimates. We've got
Doctor Strange of Asgard,
Secret Six. Yeah, a great selection of books this week, plus many more. So if you head on over to infinityflux.net, you can see everything that comes out, all the variants, even the ones we didn't show off. And yeah, make sure you order them. That way they don't sell out and you can enjoy them when they release on Wednesday, whether you're local or we ship them out to you. Either way, you're guaranteed to get them. Again, we'd love for you to subscribe. We're so close to 4,000. Awesome comic fans, and we would love for you to be part of that as well.
Help catch us in 4K, as the young people
Oh,
say. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not around young people, so I don't know. Also, on Wednesday, we've got our Comics in a Flash show, like usual, but also it is time again for our Comics Letter Page show. We'll be taking your questions. We do it live. You can follow us on any of our social media networks and you will see us there. Ask questions. We love to talk to you, love to answer questions about whatever in the comic book sphere you would like to talk about. But all of that being said, until next time,
See ya.